and from death, who is the faithful witness, and the first begotten of the dead, and the prince of the kings of the earth, unto him that loved us and washed us from our sins in his own blood, and hath made us kings and priests unto God and his Father. To him be glory and dominion forever and ever. Amen.
Long live the victory! Glory to the eternal kingdom! Long live the victory!
Psalm 24. The earth is the Lord's, and the fullness thereof, the world, and they that dwell therein. For he hath founded it upon the seas, and established it upon the floods. Who shall ascend into the hill of the Lord, or who shall stand in his holy place? He that hath clean hands and a pure heart, who hath not lifted up his soul unto vanity, nor sworn deceitfully. He shall receive the blessing from the Lord, and righteousness from the God of his salvation. This is the generation of them that seek him, that seek thy face, O Jacob. Selah. Lift up your heads, O ye gates, and be ye lift up, ye everlasting doors, and the King of glory shall come in. Who is this King of glory? The Lord strong and mighty, the Lord mighty in battle. Lift up your heads, O ye gates, even lift them up, ye everlasting doors, and the King of glory shall come in. Who is this King of glory? The Lord of hosts, he is the King of glory. Selah.
All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Kakadash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples towards younger brothers. And peace and blessings and salutation to the whole elect out there pushing his word and truth and in sincerity across the four winds in the name of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Kakadash. Pushing to get up out of there, shalom to the hopeful elect, the believers, the listeners whom have came back to the obedience of the scriptures through faith in Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. All right, now what I want to go into is a lesson called Born Loser, okay, which is speaking of Esau Edom, and this title came from a live stream, that I did a few days ago, and I think it was the Morning News and Prophecy, and some brother, made the point. That Esau is a born loser. Okay. And you look at how, the Lord has Esau set up for failure. That's because he's a born loser. All right. If you are born an Edomite, if you're of that lineage of Esau Edom, you're a born loser. Okay. The script was written for you to lose. Okay. You will have a short triumph that the scriptures speak about. We'll get into these things, but it was for a moment. Okay, well, you devil, you're going to lose forever, which means you're going to go into a harsh, rigorous captivity as a people, and then you're going to be done away with. Okay, you are the born losers of the scriptures, but right now, in this current age, it's a privilege, what they call white privilege, in this society, which we know they're not white people. Okay, they're Edomites. So biblically, what you so-called white people have been enjoying, all right, within this moment, all right, of rulership, you've enjoying the Edomite privilege. Okay, but that privilege is going to be short-lived because you were set up as a people to lose, and there's no nation that's going to lose like Esau. Okay. Now, when you go into it, let's get Romans 9:9. Say, for this is the word of promise. At this time will I come, and Sarah shall have a son. Now, to understand the Bible, you have to understand the story of Jacob and Esau. Okay, and the promises attached to these two nations. Okay, the blessings that they received, that Esau received, and the blessing of Jacob. Okay, because to understand the Bible, you have to understand, okay, the history between these two nations of people. Okay, Esau will be the progenitor of the Edomites, and Jacob will be the progenitor of the Israelites, man. Okay, and to understand prophecy, okay, to understand the Bible, all right, because the Bible, goes into detail of the Most High's movie that's playing out in the earth. Okay, the two main characters, all right, the protagonist will be Jacob, and the antagonist, which will be Esau. Okay, so to really have an understanding and a grasp of the Bible, you have to understand, okay, this relationship between these two nations of people and the promises, okay, and the punishments attached to these people as well. Okay, now when you read Romans 9:9, it says, for this is the word of promise. At this time will I come, and Sarah shall have a son. You see? So why is it going all the way back to this history? Because this history is vital. Why is the Apostle Paul, if these were just, Edomites and heathens that he's writing to in the book of Romans, okay, why is he going through this history dealing with nationalities, man? Okay, dealing with a particular lineage. Okay, if the Messiah came for everyone, why is he going into this particular lineage? Because these things are still relevant. You see, so the Apostle Paul is going into this lineage, all right, of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah being, all right, the wife of Abraham. Okay, well, she will bear who? Isaac. It says not only this, but when Rebekah also conceived by one, even our forefather Isaac, and who did Isaac? Okay, who did he bear? Jacob and Esau. For the children, this is the point, for the children being not yet born, neither have done any good or evil, that the purpose of the Most High called to election might stand, not of works, but of him that calleth. So for the children being not yet born, Jacob was blessed, and Esau, okay, was rejected, man. You see? So before anyone was even born, it was already set up that Jacob was going to be blessed forever, man. Okay? And Esau was going to be rejected. You see? Now Esau will have his moments throughout history, okay? But ultimately he's set up for complete failure. You see? And what he's about to attempt with this new world order, okay, he's from the lose, man. He's from to be a loser and trying to establish this, and it's going to look bad. It's going to look bad, man. It's looking bad now. Okay? It's looking bad now. And it's only going to get worse for Esau because he's a born loser. Before they done any good or evil, the Most High had a purpose, man. And let's go more into that purpose. Okay? And say before they done any good or evil. Okay? We'll come back to this now. When you go here, let's get this real quick. And before we get that second Ezra, let's get this in Sirach. Okay? All these things were predestined, Esau was predestined to have, his little moment. Okay? And then he would lose. Okay? And Esau, he's become proud as if it's because of his IQ, his, ingenuity, okay, that he's in power, because it's his superiority that has him in power. All right, that's how Esau moves, okay, as if it was within himself that he's in power. No, this was predestinated for you to be in power, just like it's predestinated for you to fall. Okay, this is Sirach 3:10, it says, and all men are from the ground, and Adam was created of the earth. Okay, because all the lineages of the planet Earth come from Adam. You go to Noah, his 3 sons, all right, Ham, all right, Shem, and Japheth. Well, of those 3 sons come all the nations. And Noah's line goes back to Adam. Okay, so everyone that's on the planet Earth, all right, biologically go back to Adam. Well, of Adam, okay, through Noah, okay, through Shem, you have Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, which is the chosen lineage. You see, and all the way from Adam until Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, there's a lineage known as the sons of God. Okay, and at the time of Jacob, which his name was changed to Israel, all right, the sons of God became known as Israelites, that lineage of the sons of God, which was men, women, and children, of course. You see, but beginning with that lineage of men, all right, from Adam unto Jacob, well, those are the lineage of the son of God. Okay, verse 11 says, in much knowledge the Lord have divided them and made their ways diverse. Some of them have he blessed and exalted, and some of them he sanctified and set near himself. But some of them have he cursed and brought low and turned them out of their places. Okay, and this is Esau. Okay, this is speaking of Esau, man. Jacob is the one that's blessed and exalted, even though we're in a lower state where the end. Okay, it's about the end game. See, we're going to win in the end. Esau is going to lose in the end. Right now, Esau is he's up. He's been up for this little moment. Okay, but his end game is to lose. He's going to be cursed and brought low. And turned out of their places, man. He will not have any authority in the earth. He will not have any ownership of anything in the earth. Okay, he won't even belong to himself in the kingdom, man. He's going to be a possession, man, a slave. Okay, a laborer, man. You see? And Jacob is going to be exalted and sanctified and set near the Most High. That's why the truth, all right, what Yahushua sacrifice, all right, it brought us near to our power again. You see, it's bringing us near to our power, because it's an ongoing, reconciliation, man. As we draw closer to our power, he's drawing closer to us all through the sacrifice of Yahushua. Okay. It says, as the clay is in the potter's hand to fashion it at his pleasure, so man is in the hand of him that made it to render it to them as liking him best. So Esau was fashioned. He was designed to lose. All right. He was designed to be proud and too ambitious. All right. To try to overdo it. He was fashioned to be wicked. Okay. Which the Lord hated. The Lord fashioned Esau just to hate this nigga, man. You see, and people, they bug out of their concept, but that's what the Lord wanted to do. Okay, the Most High got this thing figured out, man. You see, and he created this nigga. He fashioned Esau in a way that he would hate his ass, man. Okay, and he made this nigga self-destructive, man, because Esau, I say, had this, this ambition. And he's ambitious to his own destruction. This new world order is a very proud, ambitious, attempt by Esau, man. Okay, which he's going to lose everything, man. It says, so man is in the hand of him that made him to render to them as liking him best. Good is set against evil and life against death. So is the godly against the sinner and the sinner against the godly. Okay. So when you look at, the rivalry of Jacob and Esau, well, this is what it's about. Good is set against evil. Esau wants to run the earth in wickedness forever, man. Okay, he wants to run the earth contrary to Yahweh B'Shem Al-Shai. And then you have the sons of God in these last days, all right, the Israelites who have awakened and turned back to righteousness, man. We desire a righteous kingdom now. All right, this is why Yahushua says, blessed are they that seek and thirst after righteousness. Okay, because he's coming to establish righteousness forever. You see, and wickedness, the scripture say, shall be put out. Okay, so Esau was dead in the water at his birth. You know, when he came back in the Renaissance, he came back into power. Okay, everything that he did to this moment has been for nothing. He's still going to lose. That's why, going back, let's get this in Second Esdras, then we'll go back to the book of Romans. But you get this in Second Esdras chapter 3. Get to the point. Watch what say, why do the heathen rage and imagine a vain thing? All you heathens that rally around Esau. Okay, with this, Esau sold you a, vision of a technocracy where you oligarchs and you upper echelon these different heathens, it's going to win forever. Basically Esau has, sold these heathens on the dream that they can set up, a technocracy and they win forever. Okay, not knowing that you heathens, you link yourself to a loser. Okay, you pledge yourself to a loser, man. You made an alliance with the losing side. Okay, now when you go to, probably read up just a little bit. I read 13. It says, Second Esdras 13:3, and it goes back into the same. It always goes into this lineage, man, all throughout the Bible. Okay, there's lineage of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and then it really started at Noah. When you go up some more, it begins at Noah. Goes to the flood. Okay, but when you get down, just to get the point, it's a good read. Second Esdras chapter 3. It was a good read. But let's read 13. Second Esdras 3:13 said, now when they lived so wickedly before thee, thou didst choose thee a man from among them whose name was Abraham. You see, Abraham was chosen out, and he was from a particular lineage. Okay, going back to Shem going to Noah. All right, Noah, all right, can be traced back to Adam. Okay, so it says that thou didst choose thee a man from among them whose name was Abraham. Him thou lovest, and unto him only, it says, unto him only thou showest thy will. Okay, you see that? So on the flip side, all right, there's a lineage of winners and there's a lineage of losers, man. Okay, hey, born winners, born losers. And change the title, man. Born winners, born losers. Okay, and it says, and madest an everlasting covenant with him, promising him that thou wouldest not forsake his seed. You see that? So there's a lineage that's going to win no matter what. Yet have I chosen Israel. You see? Isaiah 14, Israel wins. Yet I will choose Israel. You got to get that in a minute. It says, and madest an everlasting covenant with him, promise him that thou wouldest never forsake his seed, and unto him thou gavest Isaac, and Isaac also gavest Jacob and Esau. As for Jacob, thou didst choose him, all right, to thee. You see that? Jacob was chosen unto thee and put by Esau, and so Jacob became a great multitude. Okay, so Esau was put by, man. He was a loser. Okay, Joshua, man. Okay, the nigga came out, Isaac, like, the hell is this, man? Okay, but in the spirit, man, this man was rejected. Okay, he was born to lose, man. He was born to do what he's doing now and lose. Okay, so you have born winners and born losers. But guess what? Let's go here. Let's go here to since I mentioned it. Show you that there's born winners and born losers, man. You go here to the book of in fact, Let's get the loser first. Losers first. Okay. Get the loser first, man. This is the book of Malachi, chapter 1 in the NLT. All right, this Malachi 1 and 2. It said, I have always loved you, says the Lord. But your retort, really? How have you loved us? And the Lord replied, this is how I showed my love for you. I love your ancestor Jacob. Okay? And what was Jacob giving? He was giving promises, man. And the latter end that we will win. You know, and through Jacob, all right, through the lineage of Judah, his son Judah, what do we get? We got Yahushua. You see? And Yahushua was that token of the Lord's favor for his people, beginning with the elect, man. Okay, it's a token of redemption, forgiveness, okay, and the victory, man. You see? Verse 3, it says, but I rejected his brother Esau. Okay? You see that? And then we know that it says, Jacob have I loved and Esau have I hated, when you read in the KJV. Okay? This man that is hated and rejected. All right? It says, and devastated his hill country, speaking of pagan Rome, and turned Esau's inheritance into a desert, all right, for jackals, man. Okay? So this devil, all right, was removed from power, going back to Rome. But the Lord, you know, it was written for this devil to come back, just to lose. Esau came back into power just to lose again. That's why when you go to verse 4, it says, Esau's descendants in Edom may say, we have been shattered, but we will rebuild the ruins. But the Lord of heaven and armies replied, they may try to build, but I will demolish them again. Nigga finna lose again. Okay? Nigga finna lose again, man. You see? It all leads to a loss for every road leads to a loss for Esau, man. There's no victory for this nigga nowhere in the scriptures, man. It said their country will be known as the land of wickedness, and their people will call the people whom the Lord is forever angry, man. So the Lord is forever angry at Esau, man. Okay? He's forever angry at Esau, man. You see? So there's no winning if the Heavenly Father is forever angry. There's no winning. See, there's no reconciliation for Esau. There's no redemption for Esau, man. Okay, there's no forgiveness for Esau, man. Okay, he can't be reconciled because he was never joined to the Most High. So it's impossible for him to be reconciled, to be joined back. Okay, because he was never dealing. He was put back. Okay, so this devil came back into power just to lose again, man. You see, that's his fate that he was born into. He can't get around. You see, but then you go into Jacob. All right. You go into Jacob. All right, let's read this in the NLT. It's Isaiah 14:1. It said, but the Lord will have mercy on the descendants of Jacob. You see that? There's a lineage that's born with us. Now, 2/3, they have to be judged. And eventually they're going to come back. Because even eventually 2/3 will win on, you know, they're going to come back with shame, you know, and what they got to go through, man. Hey, you don't want to play around with that, you know, and then how we enter into the kingdom, man. Hey, that our legacies, you know, we want the legacies of the faithful. We want the legacies of those that stood stiffly, man, not those, you know, that had to take a horrific death because of unbelief, man. Okay. But it said, but the Lord will have mercy on the descendants of Jacob. Okay. Showing you two different fates. You see, because what Malachi said, the descendants of Esau will return and rebuild the desolate places, the Renaissance, but I will demolish them again. But on this one, it said the Lord will have mercy on the descendants of Jacob. He will choose Israel as his special people once again. You see, we win. Okay, this is how the story is scripted. You see, This is how the Lord has this thing set up to where we win. It says he will bring them back to settle once again in their own land. All right, once again in their own land. We're going to end up in that land. It was down what you small has this greater Israel project. No, finna lose. Okay? All these agendas and smart cities and guys, look, nigga, you finna lose, man. Look. You see? Esau, you're in a fantasy, my man. Okay? It says, and people from many different nations will come and join them and unite with the people of Israel. Now, this is Israelite foreigners, which goes into, strangers. These are Israelite foreigners, man. Okay? Because our people are scattered throughout the world. Okay? You have the elect all throughout the world. And that's why Yahushua spoke about receiving his elect from the four winds. So our people, all right, are going to be delivered looking like other nation until they're changed, because we're all going to be changed in the twinkling of an eye. Okay? But our people are going to come out of other nations speaking different languages, looking like heathen, but they're Israelites, man, and they're going to be changed and delivered. Okay? And it's the Lord choosing his people, no matter what it is. That's the thing, too. If you're an Israelite of the elect, no matter what you look like, all right, if you're an Israelite according to the lineage of your father, you might look like other nation, you might speak their language, but if you're the elect, you win. You see? Looking like another nation don't stop the elect of Israel from winning. Speaking in different tongues, and we all speaking, bastard tongues, we tap back into the Hebrew, okay, in these latter days. But ultimately, all right, the elect gonna win regardless, man. Regardless of where they at, what they look like. If you're the elect of Israel, you're gonna win. You see? So let's go back. Let's get this in the KJV. All right, verse 2, it says, and the people shall take them and bring them to their place, and the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of the Lord for servants and handmaids. And this is speaking, all right, to you heathens now. See, this is the role of the heathens. Okay, now it's addressing you heathens. You see, it's not speaking about the strangers from verse 1, all right, being taken as servants and handmaid. No, those are Israelites being joined back to the promises, man. Okay, being changed, you see, and delivered. You see, this is speaking about verse 2. The context changes to you heathen, and the people shall take them. The them is you heathen, beginning with Esau. Okay, which is this is a loss for who? Esau, man, and these heathens as well. But it begins with Esau, man. It says, in the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of the Lord for servants and handmaids, and they shall take them captives, who captives they were, and they shall rule over their oppressors, man. Okay, you Edomites, man, you have been captors. Okay, you captured us and put us in captivity. Okay, but Yahushua is coming to flip that around. All right, the tail shall be the head, and the head shall be the tail. Okay, born winners, born losers, man. You see, verse 3, it says, and it shall come to pass in that day that the Lord shall give thee rest from thy sorrow and from thy fear and from thy hard bondage wherein thou was made to serve, man. Okay, so we have what? Let's get this real quick. We have a victory written. Ain't no victory written for Esau nowhere. Okay, when you go, matter of fact, go into some more of this nigga losing, man. Go into some more Revelation. All right, 12. Okay, and 7, it says, and there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon. Okay, and it's talking about war in the atmosphere. All right, chariots. Okay, it's Michael. He's a high-ranking archangel. He's an angel of war. You know, who's going to be with Yahushua. You know, so Michael, he symbolizes the heavens coming to wage war with the earth, and it's going to be led by Yahushua. Okay, Revelation 19:11 speaks about how Yahushua is coming to wage war in righteousness, man. Okay, so it said Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought with his angels and prevailed not, lose. Okay, because this dragon represents what? The new Roman Empire, man. Rome reloaded. Okay, America, NATO, EU. You see? So now, man, this man what? And prevailed not, he loses. Neither was their place found any more in heaven. Yeah, their place, their position of authority right now. Esau's in a place of power. Okay, but after this war, this third world's war, and at the end when Yahweh shot, okay, into this war, man, Esau is going to be removed from his place, man. Okay, of authority. You see, he's going to lose that. He's going to lose everything. You see, neither was their place found anymore in heaven, which all those satellites and okay, his military, okay, his air force, all this gonna be disintegrated, man. Okay, he's not gonna have any infrastructure in the heaven, any infrastructure in Shemayim, and he's gonna lose his place in rulership. Okay, verse 9 it says, and the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent. So even going back to the serpent, you know, which Esau, he comes in the spirit of that serpent, man. It was meant for the serpent to lose. Okay? He disrupted the sons of God. Okay? Ruined paradise. But at the end, the Lord will have it to where, all right, the elect of Israel will overcome. All right? It said, called the devil and Satan, which deceived the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast with him. You see that? Okay, and that's his military being destroyed, man. His angels represents his military, beginning with those fighter jets, man. Okay, you even have a military, fighter jet crew called the Blue Angels. Okay, in America, man. You see? Well, that's his military being destroyed, man, cast to the ground, leaving, you know, taking off as a whole fighter jet, but then you get turned to powder. You come back to the earth as powder, man. Okay, from the fire of the chariots, man. That's what's going to happen to Esau and his military, and the military is all these heathens, man, but it's going to be headed by who? The dragon, Esau, man. Okay, so when you read the scripture, there's no victory for this guy anywhere, man. You see, and this is it for him. No more renaissance after this, man. Like we said, man, this man's not gonna be able to establish anything else in the earth after this, man. Once he loses this time, it's over, man. That's why he's been trying to go all out, you know, to try to offset prophecy, man. He's gonna lose. You know, even his attempt to try to offset prophecy is recorded, all right, and chalked up as a loss, man. It says, and I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, now is salvation and strength and the kingdom of our power, okay, and the power of his anointed, for the accuser of our brethren is cast down, which accused them before our power day and night, man. Okay, so this is Esau out of there, man. Okay, and there's plenty, you know, there's so much more you can get into, man. All right, you know, leave room for another brother. They want to tap in, all right, but there's so much more to get into with the devil, you know, losing, man, because he's a born loser. Okay, if you're an Edomite, you're done. Matter of fact, got to get this. It's the book of Micah, chapter 2. All right, because the scriptures address the devil's wickedness, and then it addresses his end. Micah 2:1, woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. When the morning is light, they practice it because it is in the power of their hands. And this are you Edomites, man. You control okay, the reality of this world. Okay, you control, I say, the economy, okay, the military, the education, all right, the shipping, the trafficking, okay, the media, the entertainment, the sports, every facet of society this man controls. So he's able to conjure up wickedness and put it into play and execute on it because it's in the power of his hand. Okay? And it says, and they covet fields and take them by violence, and houses and take them away. So they oppress a man and his house, even a man and his heritage, man. Even a man and his heritage. You see? So you devils, all right, are guilty of all this, man. These are your charges being brought up against you, man. Okay, the Bible constantly goes into the charges that's brought up against Esau, man. Okay, therefore, thus said the Lord, behold, against this family do I devise an evil from which you shall not remove your necks, neither shall you go haughtily, for this time is evil. So against this family, if you're born into this family, if you're a descendant of Esau, you lose. The Lord has an evil, a bad time, and you're not going to remove your necks, which means you're not going to sidestep this judgment, man. Okay, Yahushua is going to come with judgment, man. Okay, and if you are of the lineage, the family of Esau, well, you was born into a losing family, man. Okay, that's why Scripture say, rejoice and be glad, O daughter of Eden. Okay, because you're a born loser, so you might as well live it up. Okay, because you got the biggest L coming ever, man. The biggest loss coming ever, man. You see, so that's the point. I'll leave it there. Lord will, you brothers. All right, and you sisters edified once again. I'm gonna give all praise and glory unto Yahweh by Hashem, Yahushua by Hashem, Makakadash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples to us young brothers. And peace and blessings, salutation, hopefully, shalom.